Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly rundown where we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us today on the Media Boat Podcast. This is episode 482. Today is April the 10th, 2025. And yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Normal structured show today.
Yep, we're going to get you the 411 before 411. And we're going to start this pod with one, terrible jokes, but two, the music section. So the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And the hottest song in the land is still Luther by Kendrick Lamar and Because of SZA. At two, Die with a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. At four, uh, at three, Nokia. At four, a bar song, Tipsy
Sorry, I
by Shabuzi.
Nokia is by Drake. I'm sorry that it didn't. I thought I copied pasted that.
Well, it's okay because unlike a Nokia phone, when you drop it, it doesn't break. Uh, at four, a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi. And then running at your top five, Pink Pony Club, that's by Chapel Roan.
Yep.
As for your album chart, your Billboard 200. Hey, I remember this one. At number one, Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande, because it got the deluxe version released.
Yes, on the strength of the deluxe version is back at number one.
At two, Music. Well, really, it's I Am Music by Playboy Cardi. At three, Deep Thoughts by Lil Durk. Hey, haven't seen Lil Durk in a while. Point at four, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. And right at your top five, Some Sexy Songs for You by Party Next Door and Drake. All right, let's get into if you like any of those albums, we have new releases.
Mhm.
Starting with Sable but Able by Bonnie Bear. Yes, everyone's favorite bunny bear. There's also Hex Key by Mamalarkey, Anxious by Nell Smith, and The Adject Possible by OK Go.
Adjacent.
Adject,
Adjacent.
ad, Adjacent. And we also have True Electronic by Roy Ksop.
Electric.
Electronics. True Electric by Roy Ksop. Are you sure we're seeing the same doc?
Yes.
All right,
I
because
can see
mine
you're
also
on it.
says, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because mine also says that there's a new Turnpike Troubadour album coming out tomorrow, but I don't think you see that here.
I think you're having visions.
What? What? I mean, I can lift my right arm, right? And just my right arm. Nothing smells funny, like copper or chocolate milk, right?
Any, anyways,
Anyways, let's go to the music news. Yeah,
weird
kind
one.
of tangent.
Yeah.
So, most of you may not know who Jillian Schreiner is,
No.
but if you're a super fan of Weezer, you'll know that name because that is the wife of bassist Scott Schreiner. Well, she was in a little bit of a kerfuffle, struffle
Yeah.
in the
That's a good
news.
word for it.
She was in the news because Jillian was shot by LAPD and arrested Tuesday on suspicion of attempted murder during a search for a hit and run suspect. While searching a home in the Eagle Rock neighborhood of Los Angeles on Tuesday afternoon for a hit and run suspect, authorities spotted Jillian Schreiner in the yard of her house, located next door, holding a pistol. Police asked her to drop the weapon multiple times, but because she's doing her best IT impression, uh, she said no and refused, instead turning it on to the officers, per the LAPD's report on the incident. LAPD then opened fire, and she was hit in the shoulder. No officers or members of the public were harmed during the incident, according to said LAPD report. After being shot, Jillian Schreiner ran inside her home, later reemerging with her babysitter, according to local news reports. She was then taken into custody and brought to a local hospital to be treated for the gunshot wound, which police say was non life threatening. According to the Associated Press, she later posted $1 million bond and was released from custody. LAPD stated Julian Schreiner had nothing to do with the hit and run, and she was later booked for attempted murder. A 9mm handgun was recovered from the Shriner's house, according to LAPD. So, yeah, I read up on this story, and there was a hit
Mhm.
and run in the neighborhood
Yeah.
where Jillian lives and protecting her home, stood in her yard, establishing her Second Amendment right to be a gun owner,
I guess.
as some people will read that, and then not listening to the LAPD in wanting to uh, unbear her arm, was then shot by said LAPD officers.
Yeah. It's a weird random story. It's especially weird with the link that to like somebody who was sort of famous. Yeah, she just happened to have a gun on her in the least opportune time to have a gun on her and was being ridiculous by not just like giving up and just being like a normal person in the situation. I don't know if I would either. It's kind of a weird situation to be in, but I also don't own a gun, so I would never be in this situation. But yeah, it's a really weird one, especially since Weezer is checks notes going to have a lot of festival presence this summer, and so they're gonna have to move past this like this didn't happen really quickly.
What, you mean people won't be throwing 9mm handguns in the air with them like they just don't care while Island
Um,
of the Sun gets blasted?
Probably not, no. I have my doubts.
Hmm. Well, whichever way you land on this, she does now have to report to the LAPD because she was officially arrested on attempted murder. I would assume that is attempted murder of the police officers, as that's who the gun was pointed at. And we'll see if stand your ground laws will apply in California.
Yeah, not the thing here, turns out.
Nope. But hey, what weird times we live in, right?
Yeah, truly.
All right. Did you listen to anything?
Uh, no, not really of note. No. Well, I mean, I listened to the deluxe Ariana stuff, but there's like 5 songs and there's really not much to say.
All right. Like I said, I'm planning on listening to the Turnpike Troubadour album, assuming what I saw was correct and it does drop on Friday.
Okay, fair
All right.
enough.
Let's get into video games, where we start with new releases, starting with Crash Lands 2 for the PC, Monaco 2 for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X, Promise Mascot Agency for everything. Wide release. You got it. You can play it. We also have Blueprints for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
I'm gonna pause you there.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about blueprints?
This
What's
is
that doing there?
Blueprints, not Blueprints. Um,
Sorry, that was supposed to be a new release. What you had highlighted just now.
that's okay.
I moved it.
Uh, I'm not familiar with Blueprints.
Okay, so I would recommend you look this up. It is available on PlayStation Extra and Game Pass starting today. It is a mic game.
Hmm.
It is a first person puzzle game, not too different from your favorite The Witness.
The following?
Yeah, the following Media Boat Podcast owned the following, um, but combined with a roguelike card-based game. There's no action. There's not much in the realm of like card-based action like Balatro, though. It's kind of like you're inside the card game. I recommend you check this out and play this because it sounds like it might be one of your favorite games of the year.
Okay, it's on PS5 and PlayStation Extra. I forgot to
Yes.
cancel mine, so it literally just renewed, and now I'm stuck into it for a whole other year.
Well, good news because now you get to play Blueprints, which sounds like your kind of jam. It is getting nothing but raves like over the last couple days on Gaming Blue Sky. People can't shut up about how great this thing is. It's not for me. I'm not a puzzle game person, but I think that since you are, this is a good one for you.
Now, here's my conundrum, though, because while I'd love to play Blueprints, my time will soon be consumed with Lost Records, Rage and Bloom, Tape 2,
Fair
available on
enough.
PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. But I think there is a bit of time between when that officially releases on Tuesday
Yes.
and Blueprints, which says out right now, which means maybe streaming some weekend, some Blueprints.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you should
Yeah.
absolutely play that.
All right. Also, I've been told to play Monuments Valley and Monuments Valley 2, both currently available everywhere. Wide release. You got it. You can play it if you weren't already playing it, because that is a almost 10-year-old game at this point.
Yeah, originally just a mobile game. I played Monument Valley 1 on an iPod Touch. That is how long ago that was. It's cool. It's like perspective-based puzzle game. Also a plot point in House of Cards with very canceled Kevin Spacey playing Monument Valley and having a revelation because of it,
Yes,
if you
this was
remember that.
after he played the start screen of God of War 3.
It was, yes. This show had a weird relationship with video games.
And lastly, in new releases, the Talos Principle: Reawaken for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
Yep.
All right, let's get into some video game news, and we're going to reverse this here, starting
Yep.
with Microsoft, as they have confirmed its big summer Xbox showcase will indeed return this year, with a live stream set to take place on Sunday, June 8th, followed by, oh, well, another showcase, but this one focused on the Outer Wilds 2.
That is correct.
And this is, I believe, the first of the big studios to announce summer showcases because no E3.
Yeah. I mean, that's to be expected. Will be likely what's lined up to take place at the same time as Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Explosion, if I had to guess. So expect that around that time.
Well, we can also expect Ubisoft to be around said Summer Games explosion. But I don't know, they may be imploding by that point because, hey, they're in the news again, and not for good reasons. Because Ubisoft has again argued that players buying video games shouldn't expect to own the game forever. This argument stems from Ubisoft's decision to shut down The Crew last year. In December 2023, the publisher quietly delisted The Crew from digital storefronts and confirmed that the online only game would no longer be playable as of this month, April 2024. Quote, after almost a decade of support, we'll be decommissioning The Crew 1 on March 31st, 2024. So, yeah, as of this podcast now, you can no longer play it. Uh, Quote, we understand this may be disappointing for players still enjoying the game, but it is necessary due to upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. Close quote. Uh, Two players impacted by the shutdown launched legal action against Ubisoft, accusing them of violating California consumer protection laws, meaning that if you buy something, you should own it. And what,
Yes.
as we've talked about here on the Medieval podcast, almost since we started this thing, is that if you buy digital, you are buying the license to play the game. You're not buying the physical game itself.
Yeah, I included this story because it is conversation we've had on this show for the last, well, since we started, like you said. Yeah, in this era, it is basically up to the company that you bought it from for how seriously they take those ownership rules and whether ownership means what you think it means in the traditional way. And so yeah, it's really disappointing to see Ubisoft just basically be like, well, sorry, this is not how it works. This is not our relationship to you, and sorry, you can't play the crew anymore. It is interesting though, considering this legal action, whether maybe there's a future where the state of California really tackles this in like a real way using these existing laws and tries to like maybe make a point that Ubisoft can't ignore. I would really like to see a state as powerful as California get involved and really try to define what ownership in the digital era really means finally, because it's a conversation that we still really haven't settled since it started. Like since like this was never something that I think when they wrote the Telecommunications Act in 1996 that they ever saw coming. That half the stuff we would own would just not be real and we would just get it taken away. We saw that was what was the
You
last time
mean
that we
they
talked about
haven't
this
had
was
the
the
foresight 30 years into the future that
no,
everything would be streamed online?
no. But yeah, what was the last time we talked about this was when Sony pulled a bunch of TV shows off of PlayStation, right?
Yes, off the
Yeah,
PlayStation. They pulled all their TV shows and movies and even their own self-produced TV shows
right.
and episodes off of the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but ultimately not too surprising. So yeah, you're right. Like when you go into a digital agreement, just know that it is an agreement. You are basically signing away your rights to own it in the traditional way, and they can do whatever they want, unfortunately, at least for now. And I dream of a future where maybe that's not the case.
I It's hard to see that in the future
Yeah,
because
it is.
talking about the wait, no, not because we're serious,
Hmm.
business suit here because as we say, it's a business.
Yeah.
If you're gonna run this game, you gotta have the server space. You gotta pay for the servers. You gotta
Hmm.
pay for this to house it, to run it, to maintain it, to have people on staff to keep maintaining this game.
Yeah.
And if the numbers coming in don't match the numbers you're putting in, sorry, if the dollars coming in are not enough to cover the overhead costs on this game, product, service, whatever digital entity you would like to insert name here,
Hmm.
then it doesn't become feasible for a company, no matter how big you are, even if you are Ubisoft, EA, Disney, whatever, they look at the bottom line dollar, and if they're not making enough money to justify keep spending the cost for it, well, the obvious thing to do is to, you know, sell it to someone who will front the costs and keep this thing going rather
Yeah.
than just shutting it off.
And with games, this happens a lot more than we think it does because it rarely affects games that have a large community. This seems to be a noteworthy exception to that, where there are a lot of people still playing the crew. But yeah, it's going to be more and more common as those servers get harder to maintain and get older. As we kind of go, now we're in what the fourth generation since we've started really playing games online in this capacity, just about. So, assuming
Mm,
that the Switch 2 launches this a new generation, which I'm going to say that kind of does. But yeah, I don't know.
well, let's see here. Are you counting then?
360,
Yeah,
PS4, like Xbox. Like if we're using Xbox platforms, or I guess it's easier to use PlayStation, huh? PS3,
three,
PS4,
four.
PS5. So
Yes.
if Switch 2 is starting a new one,
Then that'd be
theoretically,
the 306. That's what you're talking about.
it'd be
Okay.
the fourth generation
Yeah.
since. Anyways,
Yes. Even though you can scream at us that saying, hey, there's Ethernet capabilities for the PS2, the PS1. Technically, you are
wasn't the
correct,
same.
but also not the same.
Yeah, not exactly the same as the modern like party
Yes.
like
What
kind
you'd
of
think of as modern
presentation.
online play.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyways, yeah.
before we move on, I have an unfortunate thing that I have to talk about. I really, I wish I didn't have to, but I just want to address it very briefly here because I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to our audience if I didn't. Um, you know, boycotts, they're not fun. And they're not usually involved with the video game industry, but one hit this week that I do think that if you're able to, you should participate in it. You already participate in it, and you didn't even have to do anything.
Yay!
Um, but it will mean that I will possibly have to cancel something, or I should cancel something. Okay, so as we've established on this podcast before, and as a lot of people know, the violence in Gaza is essentially a genocide. What Israel has been doing in there, like, there's no reason they needed to go as long and as hard as they have, and it is disgusting and just depressing what's been going on over there. Part of the movement to kind of help the Palestinian people is called the BDS movement. It stands for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. And basically, it promotes the use of those three factors, those three things, in order to basically fight against the Israeli occupation and genocide. Every once in a while, they've announced new things that are added to their boycott list. And just about over a week ago, they added Microsoft. So the reason is because Microsoft has been providing AI technology to Israel's military. And the action that they're recommending is a boycott of Microsoft products. You're probably asking, but what specifically and how would that affect me? So, what they're asking for is pretty simple. They have like a bunch of bullet points in regards to this. First up, Microsoft gaming products and associated titles. So this would include if you have an active Game Pass subscription to cancel it. It would be they say uninstall and boycott key games owned by the company. They mention specifically Minecraft, Call of Duty, Candy Crush. So think like the biggest marquee
Mhm.
titles. And that's what they're arguing to not because those are active servers that you don't need to necessarily fire up and boycott the Xbox platform. For example, if you were planning on buying one, maybe wait, that kind of thing. If you already have one, then it's a wash. But yeah, they're recommending not purchasing a new Xbox. This also includes their Surface hardware, which they manufacture. And they do say specifically the AI product Copilot. So if you have the Word, like the Office version, or I guess they just call it 365 now, huh? Microsoft 365, if you have the Copilot option on and you haven't downgraded like I did to the version without it, go ahead and downgrade it. If you use it for work, that's an understandable carve out. Like obviously, you're not supposed to stop working. That's not what boycotts are meant to do. Um, and then yeah, it says the more sweeping thing that they're requesting, which I think will be more difficult for people who work with Windows, is using the operating system, the Office suite, the browsers like Edge, search engines like Bing. Just they say just consider switching to free and open software instead of complicit companies. Just do your best. That's the thing to always remember about boycotts. You're not a awful monster of a human being if you can't do all of these things. If you're incapable of it because of your job or because of your project, say this podcast that we do, then there's not, then, like do what you can in a reasonable way. Like that's key because any action is action. Any participation is participation. Like if you're letting people know that this exists, that's a net positive. But yeah, so I want to talk about this before I talk about a game that's on Game Pass, just so I get that across. My plan is I'm going to try to finish this before my renewal, which happens in just a few days, and then I will cancel. I am planning on canceling my Game Pass. But yeah, for now, it also saved me money, which is nice. But yeah, for now, I do intend on talking about the game I'm playing, South of Midnight, because I actually think it weirdly, I don't know. I'll get into it, but yeah, I just wanted everybody. That's my kind of PSA to let everybody know that is an existing thing, and that if you want to support it, I recommend supporting it.
I mean, like you said, unless you're doing things for work where you have to use the Microsoft Office suite, you can, outside of that, like make conscious decisions to limit yourself to Microsoft products and all the adjacents, of course. If you can't use Bing and you don't want to use the other big conglomerate that is Alphabet's Chrome,
Yeah.
there's DuckDuckGo, there's Opera, there's Firefox.
There
There
are things
are
you could do.
options.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Just keep it in mind going forward. And yeah, it's gonna be rough because we love Microsoft games. In fact, it just so happens that they have like an insane lineup of games lately between Avowed, the game I'm going to be talking about today, and then Doom right around the corner. Um, so yeah, please don't ignore the suffering of people because you want to have the new shiny toy. I know it's really hard, but let's do our best. All right,
Yep. Money
move on.
talks, and
Yeah.
you, not being made of money, are about to talk about
Yes.
South of Midnight.
Yeah, South of Midnight, the aforementioned game that is on Game Pass right now, but you can, of course, buy it individually. It is a Microsoft Game Studios published title, though. So maybe don't buy it yet. But what I do recommend is the game because I think it's spectacular. And this is where this thing that I hate on this podcast happens, where we have to deal with the political realities of art that I wish could exist in a vacuum, but it simply cannot. Like this podcast is all built on the assumption that yes, it is a business. And as long as it is a business, it will always cause these conundrums for us because capitalism is inherently tied to this evil bullshit that I wish we didn't have to deal with. Anyways.
Anyways, I wouldn't say we're built on that saying. I'd say that that saying is a foundation for pretty much every big media conglomerate and any big title, any big IP you may be a fan of. It's
Yeah,
extremely hard to get away from any type of corporation in this day and age because of capitalism.
it's true. Yep, you cannot escape. But while we're here, South of Midnight. Um, this is a title by Compulsion Games. They out a few smaller titles in the past, but this is their by far biggest kind of swing for the fences AAA move. And it helps that they were funded by Microsoft, who I believe bought them. I believe they own them now. But yeah, this South of Midnight, if you saw any of the trailers at any of the Microsoft events in the past year or so, it takes place in the American South, and it is kind of a game based on folklore from that area. So a lot of folk tales are kind of brought to life in this game, like a lot of like monstrous creatures, like a giant catfish or a crocodile, which literally has like an island on its back. All of that, or alligator, sorry, alligator, and it all of that is brought to life in kind of this like storybook kind of presentation. I really like this game so far. So that's kind of the framing device. And the actual game is kind of a mix of all sorts of genres. Traversing the game is very similar to like an Uncharted. There's a lot of like climbing and running and jumping over obstacles, like jumping between like falling bridges and stuff. The combat is a little bit, I mean, it's pretty basic. It's kind of like melee attacks combined with like these spells that you're doing that are based on this concept of threads, which is basically magic threads that your character Hazel can see in the air and manipulate. So this could be both in combat or in traversal. So for puzzles, you could be like, "Oh, I need to use the threads to lasso this box over here so I can reach something that's high." Or in combat, it could be lassoing an enemy closer to you so you can start your combo. Then there's push moves. There's destroying things that destroy things in the area. There's even a in combat. There's even a Spider-Man esque wrap them up in threads so that they're stay still for a period of time so you can go up and hit them more. I think the combat is interesting and I do like some of it, but it's probably the weakest part of the experience I've had so far. The strongest part of the experience has absolutely been how it looks and the storytelling. The graphic style uses kind of that like Spider-Verse esque, like sort of like the animation style is kind of like off I forget the term, but it's like not exact, like it's a little off, like a the timing of it. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you know how Spider-Verse is animated?
You're talking about the frames,
Yeah, the frames. Thank you.
frame rate.
Um, so it uses that, and it jumps between that kind of like that in the cutscenes, and then like in the actual gameplay, you'd barely even notice that stuff. And then the storytelling is really compelling so far. I really, really enjoy the story it's telling. It's one very rooted in the rural South, and a lot of that, and a lot of the both the political reality of it, and also, like I said, the folklore of it. And it combines both of those two at the exact like middle of those two things. Because obviously, the folk story is that people in the South, specifically black people, were passed down through generations, were based on immense pain from the past, America's past of slavery, the Civil War, racism, and the game does not shy away from that. The literal plot of this game is your character is basically the threads are things that happen in the world, the threads that she can manipulate. And when they get knotted, it is because of pain that was in the land, pain from the people who live there, right? And so you're constantly pulling at those knots, these metaphorical representations of the pain that these people, your community has been through. So every time you destroy an enemy, they become a knot and you pull it, you pull the thread. It's really neat. And I think the metaphor really works because this is not just a game that is like from the South and is takes place in the South. Is the game that really feels like it knows the people who live there and the families. It's about generational trauma. It is about generational pain. And I think it's doing a very good job about like I think about 4 or 5 hours in is doing a very good job of translating all that. And I think it works stellar. Like I like a game hasn't nailed its themes, I think, this strong for me in a long time. Maybe since Life is Strange 1. Like it's been a while. I really recommend it. Also, some of the best voice acting I've ever heard in a video game. Just spectacular stuff. So yeah, if you're willing to accept the political realities of it, I do actually think that South of Midnight has a political point it is trying to make. And I think it's unfortunate again that something that like a piece of art that I think is doing a really good job at trying to go beyond what we expect of the AAA video games machine is now hampered by something, a reality that it could not control, that it's owned by a corporation that is doing something evil. Like those two things have to be weighed. And so if you have a way to play South of Midnight, I think you should. But I would understand right now, considering the story I just read, why you wouldn't. And that's South of Midnight.
It's interesting how the story about South Midnight pulling threads and things that are knotted are being convoluted, not convoluted, compounded. That's what I'm looking at. With the current Microsoft and Israel, Gaza, Palestine, um, its own kind of knots in turmoil. That yeah, you could draw parallels to all kinds of pain and hurt in the past and suffering, and to have a game that's about that means that it definitely has something to say. And that's, as we always try and put games as an art form, when they try to say something that is more than you can put in a book, on a screen, in a movie, in 20 minutes, in 90 minutes, whatever. And that's the good beauty about video games, is that you can have these hour-long experiences like you're
Mhm.
having and pull from it a lot more than you may have thought going into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I
Sounds
agree.
interesting.
And
You
it's
said the combat though, is it like at least fluid combat between the different types of moves?
yeah, that's where I kind of have a hang up. Every once in a while, I try to like, I'll try thinking that, oh, I can do this, execute this move right now, right? And I don't think it communicates as well as it could when you can and can't execute your moves. So sometimes I'll like be like, okay, I'm close. An enemy just spawned. I'm close enough. I should be able to use the tangle up in the threads ability. I hit it, and then nothing happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's like a
Hmm.
little inconsistent in that way. Also, the cooldowns, I wish there was a better idea of translating the cooldowns, they're kind of up in the top corner of the screen. And so sometimes I can't really look over there because I feel like I'm missing the enemies when I do that. There is a lot of adjustable difficulty. So if that's something that you do like want to move down because you're having too much of a hard time, that is an option. I'm trying to see how long I can last on the default. But yeah, I've definitely had a couple of moments where I'm like, ah, I kind of. There's one kind of neat thing in the combat though that they do to I think balance a little better, which is every combat kind of zone you're in has a health that you can pick up, a health recovery basically item, but it's kind of like stationary. And in most of the difficulty levels, you're only able to use it once. So, for example, if you're getting like totally owned and you really, really need health, you can go use it, but then you can't use it for the rest of the battle. And when you destroy an enemy, you'll get a little bit of health back, but not enough to like really recover. So on the particularly like hard combat experiences, you'll run over there, try to escape, grab your health, and then try to finish off the combat. Um, but all things considered, in about 5 hours, I've only died twice in combat. So maybe it's not as hard, but I do think that like it should be a little bit more responsive than it is.
All right. It sounds like the majority of meat of this game, South of Midnight, is the story and the deep lore that everything
Absolutely.
has.
The story in this setting and how unique of a setting it is and unique vibe. All of it I love. So I definitely want to finish this one.
Sounds good. Currently, you can put it in your top five.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I've been playing more Digimon Cyber Sleuth, but as that's a 2018 game, you've turned me on to Blueprints. I just downloaded it on my PS5, so I probably will be playing it tonight, if not at
Sounds good.
least this weekend. So definitely look out for me streaming that on twitch.tv/MediaBoat.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then I'll also be streaming, like I said, the tape two of Rage and Bloom, Lost
Yes.
Records, when that officially drops. So with that done, let's go over into video games. We'll start with, sorry, television. Why I say video games? You said video games. We're gonna go to the television section. So the film
Going to
section
the
with
sports corner.
sports. Sports corner. All right. It's Oh wait, no, I'm not wearing green. I should have been wearing green. Well, I'll be wearing red on Sunday because it's Masters weekend, and we wear
Masters
red on
weekend.
Sundays in honor of Tiger Woods, who's not dead, by the way. I just want to make sure that's clear. We just honor him because he always wears red on Sundays. So yeah, Master Tournament is this weekend. Uh, let's see here. Who's winning? Justin Rose is currently in the lead with -7 on the day. This was the first day outing on the 4-day tournament. Well, he's in the lead with -7. Scotty Scheffler, who won last year, one, is back to defend his title, but two, got to put out the uh Masters Championship dinner. And unlike when he won in 2020, where he was serving tortilla soup, and that's all anyone could talk about, he opted out for soup instead for some Texas chili. In addition to some good old sliders, tomahawk steak, and a iron uh, cookie. It was a Pazuki.
What?
The
I'm
Pazuki,
sorry. A what?
an iron cookie.
An iron cookie?
Yes,
Can't eat that.
you can. Yeah, it's a cookie in like one of those like little like cast iron skillets.
Oh, I thought the cookie was iron.
No, cast iron cookie.
You make the cookie in a cast iron.
Yeah, like a Pazuki.
Yes. Yeah. No, I follow
And you
now.
top it
I
with
was
ice cream.
confused. I thought the way you said iron cookie sounds like you're describing the cookie.
Well, okay, I can see how you got confused. That's also how he's gonna like wreck his opponent's bowels.
Yeah, turns out.
Anyways, it is Masters weekend. Everyone and your granddad are out golfing this weekend.
Sure.
Oh, and then everyone's watching Masters Sunday on what else but Sunday. Don't forget to wear red. Over in the MLB, we are still 2 weeks in. People
Yep.
are losing, people are winning, and people are making deals as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will more or less be a Blue Jay for life as he signs
Yes.
a not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but a
Keep going.
15-year deal with the Blue Jays, making him a part of the team through 2040. That's so far away. 2040. I think it was, I didn't get put a number down here. I think it was like 500 million over 15 years. They say pending physical, but he's gonna pass the physical. But yeah, he ain't going nowhere unless someone wants to take on that massive contract. Speaking of
Yeah.
massive contracts, Shohei Ohtani was in the news. Not in the good way. Maybe in the good way. I don't know. The Dodgers, having won the 2024 World Series, decided to visit the White House, where they met the 2025 president. And shenanigans ensued. You can look up
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos. This is a complicated one for me because I wish that okay, I don't wish that. Like it Yeah, no, I'll go with that. I wish we lived in a world where it wasn't just like a, well, I guess we have to do it because it's tradition, which how it basically the Dodgers made it feel. Like they just every statement out of them was like, well, it's a tradition and we're proud to be part of it. And like all the guys wanted to show solidarity. Like if you look at all the quotes, they must have had like some sort of like direction to all say the same thing because they all did. Like even Mookie Betts, who just a week prior had said he was considering whether or not he was going to go or not, having like been vocal politically
Mhm.
before, turned out to go anyways. And yeah, it was a little disappointing to see him and the vast majority of the Dodgers be there, except some exceptions made for some people with injuries. But yeah, I didn't really I was unable to, as much as I looked, I was unable to find a list of people who did go and who didn't go to see if maybe anybody opted out, but it was impossible to find.
I wonder how many showed up and had the mindset of I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yes, maybe, but if
Or
that's the
I'm
case,
here
that's
but I
really
won't talk.
disappointing.
Or I'm here just in body only.
Which means that the disappointment then should be on who's running the Dodgers because that is has to be a directive that came up top, whether the players liked it or not.
You
But
mean
yes,
Irvin Magic Johnson, the owner of the
mm,
Dodgers,
makes
would
you think.
say the billionaire Irvin Magic Johnson
Yeah,
would say
uh-huh.
such a thing?
Yeah. So yeah, and then for Shohei Ohtani, it was an especially interesting moment because this is a man that has done a pretty good job of staying out of politics, and now all of a sudden had politics thrust upon him. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this picture, having these pictures that anybody can pull up at any moment in his career, will mean. We'll guess we'll find out.
We'll see what pictures they do eventually show during his uh, Hall of Fame induction
Yeah,
ceremony. Will
in
these be one of them?
2038
Ooh,
or whatever.
I don't know.
Who knows? Anyway,
I don't know. Whoever's running it, just be like, sneak it in there.
yeah.
Part of a collage.
And as Christie said, free decoy. Decoy has nothing to do with this. He's innocent. He's just a dog. Anyway,
Anyways, yeah. MLB continues to MLB. Aaron Judge continues to be your home run leader. Shohei Ohtani, nowhere in the top five, so
yeah,
don't know what's up with him slugging it out right now.
no idea.
Slugging it out, slumming it out. Just, oh, that's right. He's got other priorities ahead of himself right now. All right. So let's go on then to the NBA, where the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns are the last two teams fighting it out for a playoff spot. Every other team is either secured in a playoff spot or eliminated in the playoffs. And funny enough, the Dallas Mavericks, who just sent away their star player to the Lakers, Luka Doncic, happened to play last night against said Lakers in Dallas, where Luka got a nice welcome home party before the Lakers absolutely kicked their ass up and down the court.
Yeah.
Luka put up 31 points in the first half. People were speculating, will he hit 77? He didn't, by the way. Uh, but when you hit up 31 points in a half, you're like, yeah, you're on pace to be that kind of game.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Dallas Mavericks even make the playoffs, considering they did make this kind of out of left field blockbuster across the ice trade, Hail Mary type of play. Goal. All right. Other NBA news, Denver Nuggets. They are clearly in the playoffs right now, but they may be entering with a little bit of a change in management, as they have officially fired their head coach, Michael Malone, and GM, Kalen Booth, with 3 games to go before the playoffs.
Hmm.
So the Denver Nuggets are currently sitting in 4th place in the Western Conference. But Malone's firing comes just 2 years after he led the team to a championship. Uh,
Yeah.
and now there's like, oh, okay, turnover just that fast, especially right before the
Can
playoffs when you're in a good
that
position.
much yeah, can that much change in just a season?
Well, no, because they're 4th in the playoffs or they're 4th in the
Yeah.
conference. They're gonna make the
Weird.
playoffs. They don't have to do the play-in tournament. Assistant coach David Adelman will take over as a team's interim head coach for the remainder of the games and into the playoffs. But speculation now on why, especially not just the head coach, but the GM as well, with 3 games left before the playoffs. I haven't seen any indication of why this is happening now, just that it happened. Just the owners came in and said, yeah, we don't like what you're doing here. We want you out. And boom, gone. But
Yeah.
yeah, NBA, like I said, uh, NBA playoffs will be starting soon. Roughly 3 games left in the regular season, which does mean it will be wrapping up this weekend. Yeah, because the next news was on Tuesday. So it'll be wrapping up this weekend, will be the end of the NBA, and we'll know who's in the playoffs, who's out, and who's in specifically that play-in tournament.
Okay.
On the other side of that arena, NHL. It's a Ovechkin watch and almost called it. So
Almost.
last week, we noted that Ovechkin was 3 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. And I made the comment that, you know what would be great? If he had a hat trick in the very next game to break that record. And you know what he did in the very next game? He had not 1 goal, not 2 goals, but a chance at a third goal going into the hat trick. Because they pulled the goalie. There was an open net, and Ovechkin didn't want the goal against the open net. He stayed on the side, and he's like, "I'm
That's
not going to
funny.
do that." Even
Like,
though
no,
it's
that's
like the
not how
hat
I want to do
trick
it.
and going away, no. Instead, he did it the next game, which was a Saturday afternoon game, and ended up breaking Wayne Gretzky's record. He
Yeah.
now holds it at 195 plus whatever he wants to continue onto that. There is a chance if he wants to play for at least 2 more years, he could get to that mythical 1,000 goals, which is insane to think about, putting in the
Yeah.
net 1,000 times in the NHL.
That is insane.
But he still has a way to go for Wayne Gretzky's points record, which he still has the far and away points record in. But yeah, Ovechkin, the #1 scorer in goals. Period. End statement. Don't come at me with your, oh, but the era he played and the equipment and the goalies and the blah, blah, blah. It's a number. It's sports. There's always records are meant to be broken. Nothing's meant to last forever,
Yeah.
except when they make a rule change to where things don't literally last forever. All right.
Yeah. But
And lastly,
congratulations.
in sports, we would be remiss if we didn't have this one shining moment to reflect
That is true.
on the NCAA championships for basketball of the men's and the women's. All right, so you remember how UConn spoiled the number one party that the women's championship was going to have? Well, they were spoiling the whole tournament because they beat number one South Carolina 82 to 59 to win the NCAA women's basketball championships. So congratulations to the Huskies. You're once again on top. Over on the men's side, we had number one Titans and number ones in my brackets, Florida and Houston, where Florida beat Houston 65 to 63 in what was an utter collapse of Houston, making 3 points in the last 90 minutes of the game. One field goal, one free throw in 90, well, not 90 minutes, 90 seconds of the game. I don't know, I keep saying minutes there. But yeah, they allowed Florida to come back when they were down by 12 to win the NCAA men's basketball championship. So congratulations to the Gators men's and the women Huskies. And good luck next year to everyone else.
Indeed.
You had your one shining moment and you didn't blow it. And that's it for sports.
Yes, that would be it. Congratulations to all the record setters and the winners. Let's move on to something completely different and talk about some television news. There are no winners in the world of comedy. Well, mostly losers, really.
Wait, you
But
mean like on stage or in the jokes they tell?
yeah, both really. Um, but yeah, a comic institution here in the US is getting imported to the UK.
You mean
The iconic,
exported?
uh, sure, export. Well, I mean, if you're
No,
in
no,
the
it's
UK, it would be
imported.
an
They're doing
import,
that.
right?
Yeah.
And this one won't be subject to a tariff. Ha ha.
Ah.
Topical jokes. Topical. Okay. The iconic late night show Saturday Night Live will debut in the UK as Saturday Night Live UK starting in 2026, bringing its signature mix of political satire, celebrity impersonations, and musical performances to British and Irish audiences. The London based version will follow the same live format that has made SNL a cultural juggernaut for nearly, or accurately now, 5 decades. The series is being commissioned by Phil Edgar Jones, executive director of unscripted originals at Sky, the satellite cable network, for Frot Kotaz's Sky Studios division with Lorne Michaels, who, of course, created the original series, serving as an executive producer. While cast members, hosts, and musical guests have yet to be revealed, Sky promises a core cast of the funniest British comedians, can't even say it, around.
See, it's not just
So
me.
UK SNL, what do you think about this?
Bring back Hugh Laurie into comedic roots.
Seriously.
Monty Python live, basically. Was Monty Python always live though?
I
I don't
guess
think so.
so.
Yeah. So actually, they've done this before, not like officially through SNL branding, but there was Saturday Night in the UK, which was a mix of stand up
Ah,
comedians, not necessarily sketches.
okay.
But they always highlighted like a single different comedian each rotating night. Then it got rebranded to Friday Night Live when it moved from Saturday to Friday. But even then, that kind of sputtered and spun out in the early aughts. So to have an official Saturday Night Live branding across the globe in or across the pond in the UK makes a whole lot of sense. Bring a lot of fresh new
Mm,
talent, fresh new faces, all
mm,
those not yet ready for prime time players, as well as, like you mentioned, musical guests. Like I'm sure Robbie Williams will be a mega hit on this stage here. Not so much in the US, but that's the difference between the US and the UK.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what a UK version of this will look like. And yeah, I agree. Hopefully it launches some careers just like SNL here in the States has. And hopefully it's a success. It seems like such a weird thing for them to have waited 50 years to do. But besides what you're mentioning.
Yeah, well, you know, 'cause they have done things in the past, and if they want the actual SNL branding and the SNL format, which I don't know how that would work between UK and US laws of using their own like style against them in two separate countries. That's bigger law than we have time to get into here. But yeah, with Lorne Michaels as the executive producer, this will have his signature stamp on it. It will still be, this will actually be produced by Broadway Video, which is Lorne Michaels' production company. So you know it will have all the signature SNL sticks, sketches, stigmas, and of course, weekend updates. You've all come excited to know.
Yep.
All right, let's get into thoughts then.
Yeah, you watched a lot of TV this week because, as you said in the pre-show, a lot of stuff ended.
Lots offended. I'll keep this up. The Pit, technically, its season finale is tonight as of this recording.
Okay.
Still the best show I've seen. I can't wait to see how it ends. If you want to watch it and binge it, and we can talk about it next week, you still have time.
I have read some things that happen in that show, and no, I do not want to watch it. If I was squeamish during the substance, I am definitely not going to watch a more realistic, non-fantasy version of body stuff. Like, I'm sorry.
What do you mean? You don't want to see real life crowning happen?
No, no, I don't.
It's a miracle of life of all this happening in a single day. I mean, yes, as a lot of this is very out there
Yeah,
for a day of like hospital, like day in the life of a hospital, but it does feel like they crammed what would essentially would be normally drawn out over a course of several
right.
a season into this very compact, very nice 24-esque hour by hour, minute by minute take of an emergency room.
Right.
So yeah, that season finale is tonight. I am very excited, and I'll have more to talk about that next week.
Sounds good.
Also, because we're gonna be talking about Max here for a while, The Last of Us Part 2 premieres on
Yeah.
Sunday. We'll talk about what that first episode is, and little, well, I guess I could spoil it here. Spoilers, not spoilers, depending if you read the trades this week and today. It's getting a season 3, which means we kind of know where it's going to end
Yeah.
then. It's season 2.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's a pretty easy place where they can end it. If for anybody who has played the beginning of part two. There's probably there is a pivotal moment that will happen, and that's probably where the cliffhanger will be. Yeah, I am approaching this season with trepidation. I am so worried. As someone who doesn't necessarily love what they did with The Last of Us Part 2 and how this will follow roughly the beginning of that story, and also as somebody who is like not exactly thrilled about Neil Druckmann as a man and what shit that he said recently about like did we talk about this stuff last week about
We
how
talked
he
about it the
thinks that
last time.
yeah
Yes.
about how he thinks that that Joel did the right thing in the end of one. So
Yep.
yeah, this is kind of the vibes going into the season. I'm just like, oh, these vibes are rancid. I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy this, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, and we'll be watching. But we'll be watching that because it's going to take the place of the other show that was on HBO on Sunday nights, White Lotus, which had its season finale this past weekend. So we've watched it, we've stayed at the White Lotus, and we leave yet again with more murders. I swear this hotel is cursed on purpose. This season brought us a lot of love and spirituality and rebirth, and basically what happens when everything you think you know just absolutely goes to shit slowly because of your own doing, whether it's
Yeah.
because you've done things in the past, things you think have done towards you, or things that decisions that you made in the past that may have made turned out better if you made other decisions. And you just keep like picking at that in your head as you meet your friends who seem more successful than you are in their own careers and paths, and you feel like you're spiraling, or maybe you're not, or maybe you're better off than you think you are. A lot of like spiritual and like self rebirth, also a lot of heavy Buddhism in this season. Makes sense because they were in Thailand for this season. And a lot of that ocean imagery that we've come to know of White Lotus, because they always sit them next to a beach, whether it's in Hawaii from season one, or Italy in season two, and now Singapore, Thailand in season three. All that beautiful beachfront property of the Four Seasons, or whatever Ritz, whatever hotel or let them stay at and shoot this. But yeah, continues to be one of the good shows on HBO. Looking forward to it. There's a lot of good shows out there. I don't know if this will end up on my top five, but in terms of like what was supposed to be a one-off show, a limited series that got turned into now three seasons and possibly a fourth season, very, very happy. And if Mike White wants to keep making these shows, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it because like it seems like this one had was very divisive for people.
I can see the ending being very divisive just because
Yeah.
it was very abrupt, and the last episode had a lot of ticking clocks and Chekhov's guns. You're like, oh, this is it. Oh, this is
Yeah.
what's happening. Oh, I can put it together now, and just keep going, just keep rug pulling and be like, nope, 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 you're wrong, you're wrong,
Yeah.
nope, nope. But
Messing
it,
with
it
you.
keeps you on
Yeah.
your toes, but also like forces fans to maybe take a step back and be like, don't be so invested in these characters. It's a show. These
Yeah.
characters are really not good people. You're not supposed to sympathize with them for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah. They're pretty awful.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Speaking of things that are awful, people that are awful,
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
the studio. No, I'm sorry. Adolescence.
Wow, what a pivot.
All right. Adolescence on Netflix. It's four episodes, they're each an hour long, and they each do the thing that the studio did in episode two, which is the oneer.
Got
So they're four oneers, one
it.
shots, one takes, all stitched together, edited together. And it's interesting, but by the time we got to the end of the fourth episode, I was like, oh, so there's gonna be more of these, right? And then the last like 20 minutes, it'd be like, no, we're just gonna drop the hammer, end it, and be like, oh, I did not see that coming. Like, whoa, not expecting that, which is both good and bad because I was just about to get like on board with having all these be oneers because it's
Mm,
like, okay, so the first, like, because there's only four episodes, so first episode, I get it, makes sense as a oneer, perfect ending, perfect through and through. Second one takes place in a school, kind of middling because you're kind of like unraveling mystery, kind of like a detective at work at school trying to figure out what happens. Like, okay, I get the premise, but I'm not totally sold on it. Third episode was a one-on-one situation, more or less, with a therapist and our child main star actor, who, if I had to guess, would be eventually playing Harry Potter in the upcoming series, just because he's that good in this thing. Uh, but he may also be playing Voldemort, so because he's also that good in this thing. Maybe a Malfoy. He's that good as like a bad kid.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I didn't know think that needed to be a oneer, and I was like, okay, maybe you're taking this a bit too far. And then it got to the fourth episode, and it did the same thing. I was like, okay, maybe you're taking this a bit too far. And by the time we got to it, I was like, okay, maybe there's a reason it is only four episodes, but they do pack a lot of information in those four episodes,
Yeah.
and it's very driving, very compelling. And if you have 4 hours to binge, go for it.
What do you think about the controversy about like what it's trying to say? about like people maybe just not necessarily agreeing with what it's trying to say about modern teens.
It's it's saying that this is an issue, but at the same time,
Hmm.
it doesn't give you a solution. And I
Right.
think that's not where the controversy is going. Is like, yeah, good job in pointing this out, but we already knew this was an issue, and you do nothing to tell us how it could have been done better. You do nothing to tell us like what, because there's actually a scene in the fourth episode where the parents kind of like go back and forth in this really gripping scenes. They play off each other so well, where they're like trying like both trying to figure out where they went wrong as parents, but also trying to convince themselves that it's not their fault, that there's nothing that they could do about it, while also
Hmm.
being like, but maybe we could have done something. So it's a really gripping back and forth mix of emotions that I think sells a lot of what adolescence is because you're with these characters. There is no break. So you see them, these actors go from mild mannered to just this whole like guilt ridden to trying to accepting to try and like defer their own involvement while also trying to acknowledge that maybe it is like because of their negligence, because of their faults.
Hmm. Okay. Neat.
So it's not black and white. There
Yeah.
is a lot of different takes you can get from this, but
Okay.
I think that because they're putting it on such a strong note, especially on Netflix, and it's getting a lot of like uh, eyes and viewership to it, that
Hmm.
it is having more of this discussion, which is why it brings it up. And more or less, maybe even the point of the whole thing is to
Yeah.
bring up the discussion, to have the discussion with your adolescence of your own in your own life.
Exactly. Well, cool. Okay, that's probably the like the best explanation I've had from this thing. Everybody else was just pretty much focusing on like, wow, this is crazy, and not really saying what it did. And so, yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, uh, if you have a opportunity in your life to be the head of a studio, you one lucky son of a bitch, two
Yeah.
probably worked and did a lot of good stuff to get yourself in that spot. Or three, you just decided to write yourself as the head of a studio so you can make your own goof off jokes.
Yeah, who can say?
Because that's what the studio is with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg
Yeah.
and a couple other people on there for executives, but we know it's mainly those two. So the studio
Yeah.
up on Apple TV. Four episodes are currently up.
Yes. I will say I have only watched one and two.
Okay.
I have not
I've
watched
watched
episodes
one,
three or
two,
four.
and three.
Okay.
Three has Ron Howard and Anthony Mackie, and
I
it's
heard.
hilarious because yet again, another Ron Howard sighting playing Ron Howard. See Oldenburg's in the building for the first of many other cameos of his himself. Uh, I don't know what I think about this. On the one hand, I like it. It's movie for movies. It's Hollywood story about Hollywood ish. It's got the right type of like buffoonery for Seth Rogen's character, but also in a very endearing and charming way of no one knows what the hell they're doing at any time, but they have to still act like they know what they're doing at every time.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's that classic thing where it's like, oh yeah, nobody actually knows what they're doing. Everybody is just flailing and flying on this by the seat of their pants, unless they're an idiot. And you get a little bit of both with the
Yes.
characters in the studio, which I do appreciate. I think this thing just has a surprising kinetic feeling. It moves. I love how most of it is done in the oneer, but with like some sneaky edits every once
I
in a
mean, you
while.
can do that when you have Jeopardy champion, Celebrity Jeopardy champion Ike Bertsauer in it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you get such an interesting. The one thing I will say about it, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when I first started talking about it, is I think it might be a little inside baseball for some people. I think some people will be put off by the fact that, like, almost every 5 minutes you are being presented with a reference to something specific that you may not understand. Also, I think it's because it plays around with some of these people and things are real, and some of these things are based on real things or people. And it seems to go back and forth between those like crazy. You might have somebody who is not as familiar with the business, like we are, be confused about, wait a minute, is that real? Is that person a real director? Or wait, what's happening here? Is that person a real actress? Yes, she is. It's like a little bit whiplash there because of
Hmm.
how they're kind of playing fast and loose with it. I could understand somebody being completely bewildered by this thing. Uh, that said, I am enjoying it.
Oh, get to episode 3. You'll have whiplash back and forth,
I'm
where
sure.
a lot of the buffoonery comes into this and be like, yes, I agree. No, I don't agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. No, I don't agree.
I mean, that seems to be the backbone of this show is it's based on Seth Rogen's character has to constantly be changing his mind. He
Hmm.
has to because he has basically two directions he can go. He either wants to be the pure cinema is art guy, and he wants to promote what he believes movies should be, and wants to be he's just a fan of movies. He loves movies. He loves these actors. He loves these directors. He loves everything about the business. But the flip side of that is he knows that his job is hanging by a thread if he doesn't appease the guy in charge, the guy funding the company. And so he has to often play both hands at the same time. And so far, the most of the comedy seems to come from this dichotomy, this conflict of internal conflict within him, where he wants to be this cool guy that's making all this money, but he also wants to be the legitimate movie nerd that he is. And those two things cannot coexist unless he keeps lying about it.
Oh, it goes further than that,
Yeah, I
definitely.
bet.
I think what these scripts do is that they have very much a setup and payoff right off the bat.
Yeah.
You can see the setup and you can see the payoff. And a lot of what they do and they talk about because they're in the movies actually end up happening in the show itself. Uh,
Mhm.
Perfect example is the Oneer episode
Yeah.
where everyone loves a bookend, and so or like I know when I pick it up, I hear them that it's like, oh, I know how this is gonna end then. Or like when they pull up, like, oh, I know that's like a clue setting up for stuff. That there's a lot of stuff like written and spoken and acted out in each of these episodes that kind of clue you in if you're in the movie business or like you know of the movie business that like, oh, well, that's gonna like come back over here now.
Right.
Like there's
Yeah.
very little stuff that they set up that they don't pay off in each
Yeah.
episode.
Which is how they've made their movies too. When you think of Superbad and when you think of This Is the End and their other
Hmm.
films, it's like it's very much that kind of that's their approach to comedy. Is it's very much like we're going to give you a situation that's already ridiculous and we're going to see how much more ridiculous we can make it until it gets so close to that cliff that it ends right when you're about to fall off. Like basically. And it works. It works for them, and I think their format really works surprisingly well in a TV format. And it's good that they have something like Apple TV Plus that can just throw money at them because this has got to be an expensive ass show to make. Have you ever just stopped in the middle of the episode and think like, wait, how the hell are they doing this? Because when you think about it, it's insane, right? That second episode takes place on a movie set, but they have to have a television crew filming the movie set.
Yeah, just whenever you see in a TV show or movie that they're doing about a TV show or movie,
Yeah.
just know that everything that you see there is
Yeah,
literally
it's doubled.
doubled
Yeah.
because you gotta have what's in front of the camera as well as what you
Yeah.
don't see behind the camera.
It's insane when you start thinking about it like that. It's kind of like the same thing that happens in a reality show when you have that reminder every once in a while, oh, that's right, there's a cameraman.
Yes.
Like, because it's so easy to just get so invested that you're like in the traders or something, where you're just like, oh, I'm watching these people have a secret conversation. And then you have to think about it and like, no, I'm not. There are cameramen there, multiple cameramen shooting different angles of this secret conversation.
My favorite is like either Survivor or The Amazing Race, where they're trying
Yeah.
to like strategize away from the other teams But you have a cameraman just following them as they
Right, they
go,
have to.
getting up their
It's just,
faces.
and so yeah, there was that I had that moment during the second episode of this where I was just like, that's so weird that there's a crew filming this crew right now. And that is literally wardrobe because there's wardrobe for the wardrobe. I was just like, my brain just broke. I was just like, I can't keep thinking about this or else I'm just gonna be taken out of the moment. But yeah, it's a neat
But yeah,
show
it's a
that
show.
does a
Like I
lot of
said,
neat
sometimes they
things.
make it just for
Yeah,
us.
sometimes. All right. Anything else that we need to talk about before we move on to cancellations and renewals?
Nope, let's move on.
All right, cancellations and renewals time.
What am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Almost Paradise. I guess Almost was not enough because that has been canceled after 2 seasons on Prime Video now. I guess it was on Freevee back before that was wrapped up.
Yes, it was Freeview, then Prime Video.
Yeah.
Now it's nowhere.
Okay. Now it's nowhere. Is that a subscription service I can get?
No, but you
Nowhere
need to
TV?
take the Milano to get to nowhere.
Got it. Next up, Dexter Original Sin gets a second season on Showtime. That is the reboot of Dexter. It will continue. Shifting Gears on ABC will get a second season. Will Trent get a fourth season on ABC? Yes, Will Trent will. The Rookie on ABC gets an eighth season, keeping Nathan Fillion in business.
Still not a rookie, but yeah.
Rookie. 9/11. Sorry, 911. I read it too quickly. 911 on ABC gets a ninth season. Grey's Anatomy will get a 22nd season. I swear, we were talking about that show being canceled when we started this show.
We were talked about its season finale
Yes,
in season
series
two of
finale.
this
Yeah,
show.
a long time ago, and yet it still keeps going.
Yep.
The Chicken Sisters, which I don't know what that is. Is this a Minecraft reference? Gets a second season on Hallmark Plus.
This is Hallmark Plus's first original series, and they've picked it up for a second season.
All right. Okay. And lastly, you mentioned this earlier in the show, but The Last of Us will get a third season on HBO.
So, spoilers for those of you watching season two,
Yeah,
it will get a third season.
it will continue. All right. Let's move on to movies section. And I have a giant phone to pick up. I have a square-shaped phone. It's got a beard like Jack Black's on it, and I'm
Don't look
going to
at
put
this
it up
man
to
on the
my
side of
head.
the screen.
Yeah, because I called it. You were so wrong about a Minecraft movie. We had put the estimate at $80 million because you, poor you, thought that it was only going to do as well as Captain America. Well, you underestimated the popularity of Minecraft. You underestimated the popularity of Minecraft by a lot because this was not even a holiday weekend. No, it made $157 million in its debut weekend, and it is your number one movie. So I get the point.
It bested last year's Super Mario Brothers movie, which
Yes.
had a holiday weekend.
Yes. It yeah, turns out the thing about Minecraft that people forget is it is kids are into it, but so are people who were kids when Minecraft was new over 10 years ago. Keep that in mind. So you're getting kids, you're getting older teenagers, you're getting 20 somethings, and you're getting 30 something and 40 something nerds who love Minecraft because it's a good video game. You're getting all of that. The internet loves Minecraft, so of course people are going to go see the movie.
Yeah, I know. I've just, I think because you have me hooked on Dogman just sucking.
I know. It didn't
I was like,
suck.
oh, same
It
thing.
had a great first weekend and then dropped off precipitously because there was competition. That's why. This did not have that situation. This, I think, will continue to do well.
Ugh.
Anyway,
Well,
don't
at
let
least
me
for
influence your
April.
picks. Like you're just as knowledgeable as I am here. You don't let me change your mind about these things. You've got to
I
commit.
know I
Trust
put
your
80
gut.
million there just to be like, safe on the safe side. And
Don't be safe.
nope,
I haven't been safe, and look, I'm in the lead.
I know.
All right. Number two, A Working Man, $7.2 million this week. That's a 27 domestic. Number three, The Chosen Last Supper Part 2 made $6.7 million in its debut. Again, weird asterisk there. It's not really a movie, but sure. Number four, Snow White continued to disappoint Disney with only $6 million this week. That's at 77. And I don't know if it can make it to 100 if it's making 6 million in its second week.
Third.
Third, still brutal. Number five, The Woman in the Yard with $4.5 million this week. That's at 16. So we go on to upcoming releases for this weekend. Just a couple. We have Warfare, which is about warfare, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's just a war movie. Yeah.
It's a war movie. And then The Amateur.
This is the Rami Malek CIA agent movie.
All right. It's gonna be Minecraft again.
All right, let's keep it at
Let's
80
keep it at
million
80. Yeah,
because that's
I agree.
50%.
But
Well, over or
here's
under
the moment.
50%.
I believe this is your turn this week to choose. No, or
Well,
did I choose last week? I forget who chose last week to
I put the
do.
bar at 80 last week.
Yeah, but I don't remember if you did first, whether you do over or under first.
I would have done under, so I
So
probably went
let's just
first.
say that you went first. I'll keep it the way it is. I will also take the over.
All right, so we're expecting a 50% drop,
Yeah,
give or take.
that sounds about right.
If it's over 50%, technically I win because
Yeah.
I'll be in under $80 million.
Also of note, this weekend is Palm Sunday for the Catholics, so that could also affect things, but probably not.
Right, that will affect the Chosen Last Supper Part 2.
I guess so. Yeah, probably. All right. So those are your new releases. Let's move on to movie news. And of course, the hot button issue today is the same one as we did last week with the Switch, except this time it's about the movies side of things. And yes, of course, we're talking
Because
about
guess
the
what? Trade wars go both
yes,
ways.
exactly. Yes, we're talking about the tariffs that the U.S. Ignited against several other countries, but most notably China. Just yesterday, we had a flipping of the table moment with Trump where he decided that most of them were going to be lowered, except for China's, which were going to be higher. And one of the reasons why he chose to do that was because they retaliated. China did do retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. in response. So now China says it will cut the number of US films that are imported into the country in retaliation against the latest wave of tariff increases imposed by the Trump administration. A statement issued by the Chinese Film Administration, or the CFA, on Thursday, which has been translated with Google, says that the decision to increase tariffs against China to 125% was, quote, the wrong move, unquote, and will, quote, further reduce the domestic audience's favorability, unquote, towards American made movies. Under previous trade agreements, China agreed to release 34 foreign films per year and provide overseas studios with 25% share of the ticket sales. It's unclear how significantly these now allowances may be reduced going forward. While US movies no longer rake in the Chinese audiences they once did, they still managed to gross $585 million in China last year. They still like those big blockbusters, but this will make it a little harder of a market to sell your movie in. So the Marvels of the world and the Disney's, well, that's the same company, but you know what I mean. The big studios here won't have probably the same guarantee that they're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars in China anymore like they used to. This is going to make that number much lower as the government will basically encourage citizens not to care about those releases.
I mean, you'll still have your Disney tentpole films
Mhm.
going in there, especially your Marvel films, any of your Jurassic Park films over at Universal, anything over at Paramount, like Mission Impossible. Those
Mhm.
will see showings in China because they're big global phenomenon hits. Anything other than those big tentpole films, you're gonna see a reduction in being let in across the globe.
Yeah,
And it's going to
it's gonna
hurt
be
that
harder.
domestic version of the box office. I know we talk weekly about the domestic version,
Yeah.
but that international version, most of the time, bolsters a lot of films. Looking at
Mhm.
you, Fast and the Furious franchise. Looking at you, Minions. Looking at wait, basically all of Universal at this point. Looking at you.
Yeah, there's a lot of franchises that are almost entirely make their money back because of how well they do in international markets. So yeah, this could be a potentially huge hit against a lot of releases in the US from the US that are going to China.
Yeah, I mean, this was imposed today. We'll get more information as these trade war continues.
Yeah.
If there is an end in sight, and even if there is, would they even go back to the previous policies?
Right, because there's a and even if they did, the question yeah, the question is has the trust been eroded? You're going to see a
Right,
lot of
because they're not
rebuilding
going to spend a
having to
lot
be
of,
done.
even if we do have a flip of administration in 4 years,
Right.
what are they going to do 4 years after that if it flips right back?
Yeah. The
The,
trust is
the
gone.
playing of the hopscotch of the
Yeah.
American government is not what any country wants to do.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot. So prepare. Prepare now. All right. That's it for movie news. But you had a little catch up that you decided to do that you mentioned briefly to me via text message. You decided to go and fill in your gap and watch the Academy Award winner for Best Picture in 2024, Anora, a movie that I have seen, and again, won Best Picture. You have now seen it, and I am so excited to get your take.
So it won best screenplay,
Uh huh. Yes, it did.
original screenplay. Well deserved. The way everyone talks on that,
Sure.
everyone speaks on that. It's very fluid. It's very fast. It's very real and raw. And applaud
Mm-hmm.
that. I can see why it won best screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
It won best editing.
Yes.
I kind of get it.
Sure.
A lot of this, a lot, especially a lot of those shots in cinematography, as you go inside and outside
Yeah.
of different locations, the back and forth. That sometimes you have quick edits, slow takes, know when to like let scenes breathe, especially
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of that mansion fight. How you let things go to extremely up close and personal these takes, and it's just like okay, I get the flow. I get the editing. I like other films that are edited better, but I can understand it here, especially if you're giving sole credit to Sean Baker.
Ah.
Same with directing. I can understand it. The way he's able to pull these raw emotions out of all these characters, the way he's able to flow this story, this original story, from script to edit to screen to to pull this these feelings and emotions out of everyone to elicit
Mm-hmm.
that in its audience. I get that. Okay, like I'll concede to you, like, okay, sure, directing. Mikey Madison, the starring role, starring
Mm-hmm.
vehicle. Stripper turned Cinderella, turned princess, turned back to stripper because it struck midnight. Wild, wild, wild journey here.
Yeah.
She goes on a range. She goes on emotions. I think you're right when you talked about this
Mm-hmm.
being like her, like she should win best actress, and I can
Yeah.
see it here. Having seen Anora, yeah, she is the
Yeah.
driving factor in this film, and like kudos for wanting to have sex that many times with that guy, and
Yeah, I
have
guess
Sean
so.
Baker watch you have sex that many times. Oscar for that. Perfect. All right.
Sure.
Best picture
This is your
still
hangup.
should have gone to Conclave.
Okay.
Standing on that. Conclave was a better film. I was more invested in Conclave as it occurred. I
That's
was
fair.
more in tune with Conclave. As I watched Conclave, I was enthralled with what was happening. As I watched Nora, I'm like, you're making these decisions. These are all your faults. In the first hour, I was wondering, where's the fault here? This is all way too easy. You meet the Russian guy, you go on the private date week with the Russian
Hmm.
guy. You get married to the Russian guy in Vegas. Oh, now everything starts to fall to shit. Thank you. But then again, we knew this was going to happen because you got married within a week. We knew this was going to be happening after because you're a erotic dancer who married a son of a Russian oligarch who you have no idea where the money comes from. And they even tell you straight up, he doesn't have any name to himself, any money to himself, any wealth to himself. It's all his parents' money.
Mhm.
And yet you still married him. Like, this is all your goddamn fault.
Yeah.
I can't root for you. These are all terrible people. Everyone
Okay.
here is a terrible person, except
Hold
for
up.
Toro. Except for
Hold
Toro. Toro is actually like the most decent person here.
hold up. Hold up. Okay. I was with you up until the end there because I think you have a lot of good points. If you recall, when I talked about this movie, I also said that I think Conclave was the more enjoyable movie, and I also think it is the better fit for something like Best Picture. I liked Denora a lot, but I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as I did some of the other films that were nominated. There's definitely a division between I can see the artistry here and I can see the craft of this film and acknowledge why it's won all these awards while also thinking I just didn't like it as much as Conclave. So I'm on the same page with you there until you start talking about Anora's situation where I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with you there. Yes, she makes some poor decisions, but of course she does. Keep in mind, she is 23 in
Mm-hmm.
this film. She clearly is in a really rough situation with her life. Her like that first scene where you see her in her apartment and a train is literally right next to her window. Like she is living in a really rough situation. And her job is literally something that is telling her like this is your worth, right? Like this is the mindset of the somebody who goes to that job every day is like men are basically taking
You're only worth as much
advantage,
as your body.
yeah,
Yeah.
of your sexuality. It's throughout yes, it's a little cliche, and some part of me throughout the film was like this part of this story has been done before. But I think the reason why Sean Baker's script goes the extra mile with the character is because it doesn't stop there. You get to spend so much time with her that you learn all of the eccentricities of her personality. You learn about how hard she fights for everything in her life. You can tell she's got a good heart, a good soul. You can tell that there's all this stuff going on. It's just that there's a naivety there. There's a naivete, sorry, uh, that unfortunately makes her make these poor decisions. Her brain is so messed up about relationships and romantic love that she jumps straight into the promise of having more than just a transactional relationship. But what does it become? Immediately becomes another transactional relationship. And then it goes off the rails. That's what's, I think, so poignant about the movie's ending. And it's interesting that you didn't bring this up because I think that ending is so key to the film working for me. It is the last puzzle piece for me because I was with you through most of the film. But that ending completes the picture for me, literally, because it's a reminder, it's a full circle moment where you get to be reminded, oh, that's how fragile this character is. This is how fragile her state was. Up until that point, she was so tough. Toughness was her trademark throughout this film, right? She's fighting for everything. She literally fights tooth and nail to get what she wants, which is this dream love, this dream life. And when it's been taken away from her, ripped away from her because somebody's cruel, this guy's cruelty, she has one moment where somebody genuinely reaches out and genuinely wants that actual romance with her, and she can't take it. Spoiler for the ending of Honor. She breaks down because it's something that she doesn't feel like she's worth it. Like she doesn't, even after all that happened, she's still there. She's still that vulnerable person. And who knows? And interesting that the movie leaves you there, right? Because it then leaves it to open to interpretation whether she learned anything, whether this was. I think she did. My interpretation of that ending is I absolutely think that she's going to take the events of this and move forward and be able to find love. But that scene is important because it's a reminder that that's going to be an uphill battle for her still, even after getting like proving to her that she believed in herself. that she had the confidence to get through that. She had the strength to get through that awful, chaotic situation that she was in. She took him down single-handedly. And yet she's still that vulnerable, naive girl. And like, I think that's the thing that makes that script work. I think the thing that makes the movie work is because you could simplify to be this cliche. You could say that she's an awful person just on paper, just by what you're seeing. But I think the movie does the work to convince you that no, she is actually the most sympathetic character in this film because of what society has done to her, what everything that's out of her control has done to the way that she processes human relationships.
Yeah, but to go from being married
Mm-hmm.
to saying you're in love to getting a divorce to immediately literally hopping on the next dick you see.
That's not exactly what happened though, because the movie does, I think, enough work at the beginning to establish that this guy, she was genuinely charmed by this man. And you note that that Baker makes sure that the conversations that happen around it suggest that this is not something she has done before. That this is not like it's not that she has a habit of falling in love with her clients. That's
Oh no, I
important.
didn't say she fell in love. I just
Yeah.
said she literally hopped on the next dick she found
Well,
just to feel
again,
some sort of validation.
but that's the point, right? You're supposed like that's an empathetic thing. That's like something that I think is relatable for a lot of people. Maybe not you.
Yes, I am not a 23-year-old stripper. I don't know these
No, you're not,
feelings.
turns out. But again, you don't have to necessarily be exactly the person that the story is being told to feel empathy for that character, right? Like,
I I just I kind of wish that she would have like chosen her at that moment.
but well, you mean at the beginning of the movie?
No, at the very end, just be like, okay, I want.
She does, though.
How? She literally jumps on him in the car.
Oh my God.
She's like, okay,
No, you
dude,
read the, you
get
read
back,
that's,
drop
you,
down, drop
you read
trials,
that's,
ride
no,
it.
you're reading that scene wrong. It's not that she wanted to immediately get sexual gratification from their friendship. That's not what it was. What it is that that is literally the only way she knows how to show affection. That entire because that's the whole thing about that relationship with the Russian kid, right? Is that as much as she wanted it to be about the romance and about this dream love, it was all surface level. They were just having sex a lot. And so that's reflected in this new potential relationship, right? But her brain is so broken in that department that she's initially is like, I really care about this guy. Like, this is what her brain is saying right in that moment. It's like, oh, he's being very sweet to me. And this is weird. I'm not used to that. How do I show him that I appreciate him? And of course, the first light that goes on in her brain is, I'll give him a lap dance and then, things will escalate. But that breaks when he tries to kiss her because that goes beyond her like it's kind of like the at some point that her brain just got like cleared out like that SpongeBob episode of everything but like erotic dancing and sex. She doesn't remember that like a loving relationship involves other things. And so she got to that point and she literally could not take it. She had a mental breakdown. Like that is what that scene is about. That scene is not about her being like, okay, I'm just gonna move on. No, that scene is emotional because you're supposed to watch her get on top of him and be like, oh, Nora, what are you doing? Like, did you learn anything? And then like you find out, oh shoot, she's that broken still.
No, you're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole point of like the no kissing is the stripper rule. She's, she's
No, no,
yes,
it's not.
it is.
No, that's not what it is at
It
all.
is.
Oh, you're reading that wrong. No, it's her incapability to love.
No, it's the stripper rule. You don't kiss your clients.
Oh my God. I mean, that both can be true.
All right. Well,
Sometimes
Anora, it's out. You can watch all the naked dancing and grinding on Disney Plus if you want. Disney Plus, the family-friendly show. Just make sure when you like exit out, don't pause it on Mickey Madison getting railed because in the little preview of, hey, want to continue watching this? It
uh,
shows the last like
yeah,
30
shows the
seconds
clip.
of where you're
Yeah,
at.
so
So
maybe don't do that.
maybe don't do that. Word of warning.
Wow, spoken from experience.
Well,
I
that'll
can
do it
just
for us here at
imagine.
the Media Boat Podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe how wrong you are. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching the Media Boat Podcast. We'll be back next week where we talk about also how we read a movie two different drastic ways. If you want to see us in video form, you can go to YouTube, search Media Boat Podcast. If you want to see us in audio form, well, you can't. Too bad. It's audio. You can listen to us on podcast services such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, etc. In your podcast catcher, just search Media Boat Podcast. We're also on www.mediaboatpodcast.com, newly updated. Mike has his thoughts up for a few things. I didn't. I hesitated on the lost tapes thing. I'm just going to let you do both of those at once. I just
Okay.
felt like tape one, tape two, let's just do it that way.
All right.
Um, and so that's still on there, but the rest have been posted. And yeah, or at least as of Saturday. So if you had anything
I have
on
not. I was
Sunday, I don't
supposed
have
to,
it.
but I did not.
Okay. So yeah, you can find all our writing and our archive of our shows on there, mediaboatpodcast.com. Like Mike mentioned, he might be playing some blueprints over the weekend on twitch.tv/mediaboat. So check that out. And you can last but not least find us on social media, Blue Sky, just search Mediaboat Podcast. And you can email us if you have questions, comments, and want to tell Mike how wrong he is about reading Anora on mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. All right, that'll do it. We'll see you
All right.
next time.
We'll be back with more news, more thoughts, more of us, and my
Yes.
talks on the pit. All
Yes, the
right. Bye.
pit. Goodbye.